Next, we're asked to find the benchmark fractions on either side of 1 1/3. To do that, I'm going to go ahead and cover up the instructions so that I can make a number line. Our number line is going to go from 0 to 2. And right in the middle is 1. We were asked to do the closest half, so let's go ahead and label the halves. That's 1/2 right there. It's halfway between 0 and 1. And this is 1/2 right here. 1 1/2 because it's between 1 and 2. Our next goal is to place the value 1 1/3 on the number line. It's about there in red. So then we're asked to figure out which one is greater than and which one is less than. So 1 1/3 is greater than, well, it's greater than 1. And the next half benchmark that we have is that it is less than 1 1/2. Then it asks us why are halves a good benchmark for this. And the answer is going to be that, well, the denominator is an even number, and that's good. I like that. And it's also the next increment, right? So you got a half, a third, a fourth. You want an increment that is larger so that you can round it. So let's try and put that into words. The denominator is even. But more than that, it is a smaller increment, 1 1/3. 1/3 is a smaller amount than 1/2. So the denominator is even. 1/2 is larger than 1/3. And that's a pretty straightforward way of saying what I was struggling with earlier, as far as the size of the increments and all of that. Let's see if we can take it through to the fourth question. The difference, 3 1/2 minus 1 1/3, must be between. So now it's asking for us to do another estimate. Let's see what makes sense. We start with 3 1/2. So it's not going to be more than that because it's a subtraction problem. So there's 3 1/2. Let's just put it right there. And we're going to take away a whole 1 1/3. So we'll mark 3. We'll mark 2 1/2. We'll mark 2. We'll mark 1 1/2. And finally, at this end of the number line, we'll mark 1. I said 1, but I wrote 2. Let's figure that out. So here we are with our number line. And we're going to subtract 1 1/3 from 3 1/2. So if we're just going to subtract 1 from 3 1/2, 3 1/2 minus 1 would be 2 1/2. That's if it was only 1. And it is more than 1. It's 1 and a little bit. So we're going to be over here somewhere where this dot is. So let's tell our sheet that it's going to be between 2 and 2 1/2, because we were able to use our benchmark fractions and a number line to visualize about where our answer should be. And then we're going to have to explain our answer. How would we put that? Something along the lines of 3 1/2 minus 1 is 2 1/2. That statement right there helps to explain some of our thinking. We also want to say that 1 and 1/3 is more than 1. So for those two reasons, it's going to be one giant hop from 3.5 to 2.5, and a little more. Let's see if we can put that into words. So you must what? Decrease further to the left. And what I'm trying to say with those words is that you keep going, like you saw me doing with this green arrow here. You go 1, and you go a little more. You decrease or get smaller, more than 1. So further to the left. Then we're asked to find the actual difference. To find the actual difference, we're going to be subtracting whole numbers and mixed numbers. And we might even have to find common denominators. So this is where we're going to pull it all together. What's the first thing we need to know? How much do we start with? We start with 3 and a half. And we're going to take away 1 and 1/3. Let's go ahead and set that up so that the fractions have a common denominator. Switch colors for this. This would be the same as, we're going to keep our whole numbers. So we'll just go ahead and rewrite them right here. We're going to keep them. And then we want to find the common denominator between 2 and 3. Well, we've been working on this, and the common denominator between 2 and 3 is 6. So that'll be our denominator for both of these fractions. Then we have to do the football coach thing and ask ourselves, well, what did I do to 2 to make it 6? That is times 3. So that's what we'll do to the top. 1 times 3 would be 3. I can clean this up a little bit now that we set that up. We're also going to want to do the same for the second denominator. 3 times 2 is 6. So then 1 times 2 is 2. And now we have 3 and 3/6 minus 1 and 2/6. Let's go ahead and put that here. 3 and 3/6 minus 1 and 2/6. All right, and now that I've written that there, that gives me more room to clean this up here. So we have 3 and 3/6 minus 1 and 2/6. Now we can do that a variety of ways. Let's do it with a drawing. 1, 2, 3 pizzas, and 3/6. All right. So that is going to be the equivalent to a half. And we knew that because that's where we started. But there are your 3/6. Then we're going to get rid of, eat or X out, 2/6 and a whole one. So let's get rid of this whole one. That's easy. Then we're going to get rid of 2 of these 3 pieces. There we go. So what are we left with? What haven't we gotten rid of? We have 2 whole pizzas. We have 1 piece, and that piece was 1/6 in size. So that tells us that there are 2 and 1/6 pounds of chicken remaining. And is that reasonable based on our estimate? That question asks you to look back up here at number 4 and see that your answer should be between 2 and 2.5. And if we were to place 2 and 1/6 on the number line, we would see that it falls between 2 and 2.5. So it asks us if it's reasonable. Let's go ahead and put that into words. That's the hard part, right? We're going to say something along the lines of yes. And we'll move this down here somewhere. Get my little yes out of there. Doesn't like it. Yes, it is reasonable. But that's not enough. I think we know that. Let's explain why it's reasonable. 2 and 1/6 is between. Ooh, there we go. 2 and 1/6 is between 2 and 2 1/2 on the number line. All right. So that's what you would put for question number 6. Explain how you can check if a fraction, sum, or difference is reasonable. And that's basically asking, did you understand what you just learned in this lesson? What did we do in this lesson? How would we check? You can place the amount on a number line with benchmark fractions. And number line is 2 words. And here we go. We have our answer. Explain how you can check if a fraction or sum, if a fraction, sum, or difference is reasonable. And the answer is that you can place the amount on a number line with benchmark fractions. And if it's within those benchmark fractions, you can say that it's reasonable. When we come back, we'll do number 8. Try it.